Gays and lesbians say they want equality.
They are obeying their natures, and to obey one's own nature is not a crime.
Now politicians on all sides are championing tolerance. But does society accept gay rights?
I think 3 parts of them want burning, and I do mean that, they want burning.
Tonight, as politics goes pink, do the public want gay times? It was a very gay scene at London's Albert Hall last night. Gays and lesbians were celebrating the march towards what they call equality. The mood was upbeat. Gays and lesbians think they're on their way. The openly gay Culture Secretary, Chris Smith, was there, giving his support to the glitzy event organised by Stonewall, which lobbies and campaigns for gay rights. It was partly a gay night out and partly a rally. There was even a prize-giving ceremony for high-profile services to the gay and lesbian cause.
Please join me in honouring the winners of the 1997 Equality Awards.
The slogan for this gay campaign is Equality 2000. Equality sounds fine, but does the rest of society back their demands? Tonight we examine what gay men and lesbians really want. Do the politicians who so recently advocated tolerance back the gay rights agenda? Does the public really want equality for gays and lesbians or not? The gay leap forward began on election night. Gays stood up to be counted and won. Michael Portillo was beaten by an openly gay Labour opponent.
Twig, Stephen, Labour Party, 20,507.
And Ben Bradshaw won for Labour, even though the Conservative candidate made an issue of his homosexuality.
Labour. They've rejected fear and chosen hope, and they have rejected bigotry and chosen reason.
The first openly gay MP, Chris Smith, a member of the Cabinet, felt confident enough to permit a newspaper feature about his live-in partner, Dorian Jabri. And in a newspaper interview, another minister in the newly formed government, Angela Eagle, a junior minister at Environment, decided to come out and declare her sexuality as a lesbian. She received a warm reaction from her party.
I had nothing but support from the party from top to bottom, from Downing Street on down, from my local constituency party, and obviously, and very importantly, also from my own constituents in Wallasey.
You hadn't done it before as an MP for 5 years, had you?
No, because you have to decide yourself that you can face doing it.
How do you feel about you having done it?
Well, I'm very relieved that I've done it. I'm very happy and pleased that I've done it. It was always something that I was going to do, but the psychological pressure of living a secret life, not being able to talk about aspects of your life just in ordinary conversation, shouldn't be underestimated, and it's a relief to have got that behind me.
Can you describe that to me?
Well, I suppose it's just that you can't interact in a way which people take for granted.
Just in ordinary conversation?
Well, about your partner, about where you're going on holiday, how you're spending your time. It's just something that you can't talk about.
And then it was the Tories' turn to be gay, and to general amazement at their conference in Blackpool, the Conservatives, who try to be the party of traditional family values, seemed to experience a gay revolution.
William A. Rock, made specially for the conference. William A. Grit right the way through.
The True Blues turned a little pink. The party's new young leader wanted the Conservative Party to be more modern in its attitudes. First, he let it be very publicly known that he'd be sharing a room with his fiancée. And then the debate on Wednesday on the apparently dry subject of party organisation provided the first unlikely opportunity for gay advance. The key speech started by talking about inclusion.
Everyone, this is our party. This is our party.
Then he used approvingly the G word, gay.
We have to look at the wider party. We have to attract a party where people are one-parent families, where people are gay, where people are very, very different to what we think of, because they were the people.
Peter Golds hadn't just been called to speak by chance.
I discussed the various elements of my speech with various officials within the party, and they were pleased I was going to do so.
Officials within the party were told of the pro-gay content of your speech?
Yes, officials within the party were fully aware of it.
They had no doubt you were going to make a gay statement in your speech?
No doubt whatsoever.
At what level of the party was that? That was the National Union which organised this conference, was it?
Well, I'm a member of the National Union Executive, and I discussed it fully with a senior member on the National Union Executive.
The G word had been safely delivered, and the gay bandwagon rolled on. The next gay happening was the famous Hague letter, sent by the leader to the Tories' own gay activist group TORCHE, its content prepared as carefully as an international treaty.
Was there a negotiation between TORCHE, yourselves, and the party leader's office?
I wouldn't call it a negotiation. I mean, we were asked, what is it that you want from us? So as I said to you, I sent them this letter saying this is what we would like. I was told, well, that's out of the question.
You made a high bid.
Yes.
In which you said the word gay.
Yes.
And you wanted the word gay back in the response.
Yes.
Did you get it?
No.
But what David Allen did get was a letter which emphasised that the party was inclusive, broad and tolerant. Mr. Allen thought that was definitely an advance, and events rolled on.
I had told the Lesbian and Gay Press that I would have this letter from Mr. Hague, which would be released then, and the Pink Paper were putting together on the Tuesday their issue for the Thursday, and they wanted the actual text of it, and they got in touch with Central Office, and Central Office didn't have a copy of the letter and put them in touch with me, and so I read the letter to them down the phone.
That happened on Tuesday. The next day, the gay Pink Paper released the wording of the letter.
This was a real brush fire. I summarised the letter in 3 neat sound bites and just sent it to PA and Reuters and said for any further details for him to give me a ring.
And how soon was it before they bit, if they bit?
An hour. An hour of it going onto the wires. Channel 4 News phoned me just before they were just about to go on air that night. And apparently it was relayed live on Channel 4 News just a matter of minutes later.
Channel 4 News were on the phone to me saying, can you confirm that Hague said X, Y and Z? I said yes. 2 minutes later, Jon Snow was announcing this on television, so it was all happening tremendously quickly.
And the next day, Thursday, Michael Portillo, the hero of the Tory right who'd lost to an openly gay candidate, seemed to round off a perfect week for gay activists. He repeated the new sympathetic language.
I'm very much with William Hague in thinking that it isn't part of our job to impose upon people particular lifestyles, even or perhaps particularly if they're the ones that we favour. We have to be very careful about imposing that upon our population. Thank you.
It had been a gay week, partly by accident and partly by design.
I wouldn't dream of saying that Central Office ever don't know what they're doing, but no one could possibly have foreseen that it would happen in that way.
Gay activists at Stonewall celebrated. And on Friday afternoon, the last day of the Tories conference, the Labour government made a gay announcement. The immigration rules would be changed to allow couples of the same sex new rights to live in Britain.
I think the timing was in a sense quite significant, because after the Tory party conference, a change in policy which one might have expected to have been attacked quite strongly by the Conservative Party, they were absolutely less in the position to do so. So I'm sure the timing did have a political element.
Then the pendulum swung back and newspaper headlines showed what some thought of gay advance. And it soon became plain that rhetoric about tolerance and inclusiveness didn't mean that Tory politicians simply accepted the gays' policy agenda. Senior Tories explained what they thought their leader had really meant.
I think what he was trying to do was trying to repel the image which we might have been said to have suffered, which is that we were uncaring, that we were intolerant, that we made pariahs of people. Now, if that was our image, then it is quite right to try and dispel that. But at the same time, in dispelling it, what we have to be wary of, and as yet I don't think we've made this mistake, but what we have to be wary of is going too much the other way.
And the week after the Tory conference, a former Foreign and Defence Secretary ventured into unusual territory for him, politely warning his leader in the Times.
I think what was said was very straightforward and very, very reasonable. But of course, inevitably, it itself opened up other questions, and questions which political parties, not just the Conservative Party, all political parties will, in due course, have to take a position on. Because we know that from the perspective of the gay and lesbian community, what they seek is not simply tolerance, but the removal of any legal distinction between the rights of an individual who may be heterosexual or a married spouse compared to a partner or a homosexual relationship. And that inevitably is not just a matter of personal lifestyle, it opens up questions of public policy.
But gay issues stayed in the news. In London, there was a charity premiere for a film which showed how Britain used to treat homosexuality. Celebrities and fashionable figures and Labour's Minister for Information all came to support the film, about the ruin of the darling of Victorian literary London, Oscar Wilde. The film star knows about prejudice against gays today.
It's very easy for someone like me to be gay in public. I mean, I've had my moments at Wembley or something, going to a football match and suddenly seeing a skinhead lurch towards me shouting faggot or whatever, and I suddenly felt rather scared. But I know perfectly well
That's happened to you?
Yes. I mean, it's not common. You know, most people go, oh, well, you old puff, how are you? And that's fine. You know, I can cope with that. I'm not going to get all preachy about it. But I do absolutely accept that for people growing up in the smaller towns around, far from metropolitan London, there is still deep homophobia.
We were invited to the Stanley Street Social Club in Worksop in Nottinghamshire by Labour MP Joe Ashton to find out what people felt about gay issues away from London. Mr Ashton himself has doubts about the gay agenda. Some of his constituents went further.
I've got 3 sons, and I could forgive them anything, murder or anything. I'd be on their side. But if any one of them turned like this, I'd disown him.
Well, I won't let my lad come back in this club again. If I found out that he were gay, right, I would never let him come in this club again.
What would you be afraid of him coming back in this club? What would you object to? Apart from the fact that you don't like the idea, what harm could he actually do in this club?
Well, how can I say, I'd be ashamed. I'd be ashamed that I'd brought 3 girls up and then him. Right, I'd just be ashamed that he would have puffed her.
In fact, I think 3 parts of them want burning, and I do mean that. They want burning, and I do mean that.
Can I just put in, because I've just been back listening to you, I think that the older generation, their attitude and their opinions compared to the young ones is totally different. I think younger people now are accepting it and wanting it to happen.
Wanting what to happen?
For gays to be gays and lesbians to be lesbians and everything to be legalised.
So gay and lesbian issues remain super sensitive with the public. Inside the Albert Hall, they're buoyed up by the new language from the Tories, and they have high hopes of the new Labour government. And they want a lot. A reduction in the age of consent and changes right across society, in schools, in the military and in the law, extending to equal legal rights for gay couples to be parents. What are their chances of getting what they want? The government has promised a new vote soon over the age of consent for gay sex. The last vote in 1994 brought it down from 21 to 18. The activists expect it'll come down to 16. But a poll commissioned for Panorama says the public are against this change. In a telephone poll over the last fortnight, NOP asked a national sample of 1,000 people a series of questions about gay issues. On lowering the age of consent to 16, in line with that for heterosexuals, 35% agreed, 53% disagreed, a majority against the activists.
I suspect what's behind the results that you've got is still an uncertainty about sexuality and young people. And those are anxieties that I absolutely understand.
The protesters said Clause 28 was an attack not only on themselves, but also on human rights.
Children's education and their sexuality is an area on which the new government intends to legislate. Section 28 of the 1988 Local Government Act, the single piece of legislation most disliked by the lesbian and gay community, bans the intentional promotion of homosexuality by local authorities. In the 80s, the then Conservative government accused some Labour local councils of doing exactly that. They made an example of a book for schools.
A book purporting to be on sex education, which showed two semi-naked men in bed with a girl of 7.
Called Jenny Lives with Eric and Martin, it was about a young girl being brought up by two gays. One picture showed her in bed with them. The Education Secretary banned it. His opponent said that was a publicity stunt.
Is it a stunt to protect children from such distorted propaganda? Is it a stunt to speak up for parents who want to see school libraries contain the very best of children's literature?
Many senior Tories want to keep Section 28.
What in your book is, quotes, promoting homosexuality, quotes?
I think it is according it equal validity in teaching children about human relationships. According it equal validity with marriage, for example. I think it's drawing it to the attention of children who might otherwise never query such a thing because they're growing up in a rather different environment. So I think it's teaching it too early. I think all those things constitute promotion, not teaching it as a fact to older children who must learn these things.
The front line is in schools where teachers like Phil Taylor and Lorraine Orwin have to judge what is promoting homosexuality and what isn't. At South Manchester High School, they actively try to break down prejudice against gays and lesbians.
We have to, if you like, insist on tolerance. People come from different ethnic groups, people come from different family backgrounds, people have different sexual orientation, and all these people are, yes, equally valued, if you like. I don't
equally valued?
Yes, they all need to be equally valued, and therefore in school that's something that we need to insist on. Now, I think as a head teacher and as a school, we would be foolish, frankly, in the atmosphere that has been created over the past few years to go beyond that.
To write down the kinds of names you call people who are not heterosexual.
This one says arse bandit. And that one says shirt lifter.
Has anybody got anything that could be specifically...
Drama teacher Lorraine Orwin is getting her mixed GCSE class of 15-year-olds to confront bluntly the language of prejudice.
I've got dyke.
Dyke, yeah. Right, OK. Can you give an example where you've heard that, how you've heard it used?
Just like heard it on telly or stuff like dyke.
We're going to explore some things now through our drama because
then she gets her pupils to role-play being gay or lesbian themselves.
And tell me what it was like.
Well, if I tell you, Jemmy, you promise you won't say nothing. Tell me what? Do you promise you won't say that in school? Go on. Well, I think I'm lesbian.
You're telling me you're lesbian? After all these years being your friend? Well, I'm sorry, Claire, it's over. I can't talk to you anymore.
Gemma, wait!
No, you disgust me.
That was fiction. This is real life. This 15-year-old boy who lives in a town in the north of England told some school friends in confidence that he was gay. And it wasn't long before the news got out.
When I was walking down corridors, I'd be kicked or pushed. When I was getting ready for PE, I'd have so much space to myself because no one would come near me. Then a group of lads start coming over to me and having a go at me, saying, "You shouldn't be in here. We're not safe with you here."
There is concern that Section 28 makes teachers reluctant to deal with anti-gay bullying. This boy sought a teacher's help.
My teacher wanted to make her job easier, and what she thought would make my life easier was if I just turned round and said, "No, it's a big mistake, I'm not gay." They told me right out. turn round and say you're not, and then just get on with it and say it's a big mistake. Otherwise, you're going to mess your last year at school up.
I'm saying because of the existence of Section 28, teachers feel constrained to deal with issues like homophobic bullying. We've just done a big piece of research with the Terence Higgins Trust, carried out by the Institute of Education. We asked questions about homophobic bullying. 82% of the teachers who responded said they were aware of bullying and abuse. We also asked a question about whether their anti-bullying policies did cover those sort of situations. Only 6% said they did cover homophobic bullying.
But those who approve of Section 28 deny that it stops teachers dealing with anti-gay or lesbian bullying.
I would not tolerate any form of deliberate homophobia in the sense of stirring up hatred against. Would never tolerate that. That is all very different from failing to promote the traditional married relationship as the desirable norm.
She's a lesbian. Yeah. She told me last night.
If she's a lesbian, does it matter? Yeah, it does. It's not natural.
What is natural?
Being straight.
Stop being straight.
Yeah.
Labour's promised to repeal Section 28, but it hasn't said when.
Right, just come on. You can't believe it, Gemma.
Our opinion poll suggests that when they do it could be controversial. We asked if children should be taught at school that relationships between people of the same sex were as valid and acceptable as those between men and women. 57% disagreed. They didn't think children should be taught that same-sex relationships were equally valid. Only 35% agreed.
I've actually got this video that I can show you, me passing out in the Navy.
Terry Perkins joined the Navy in 1991.
I got the highest marks in the entry. And
you got the highest marks?
I got the highest marks out of 4 classes that joined up.
So what were you feeling then?
It's just so proud. It's a really good feeling.
What went wrong? Why were you dismissed?
I actually told somebody I thought I could trust that I was gay. That person told someone else, and then I was investigated by the SIB, the Special Investigations Branch.
That's their own detectives?
Yeah. Had to have a recorded interview.
What was it like? What did they ask you?
I had to admit that then, well, I didn't have to, I could have denied it, but why should I? That I'm gay.
Was the interview cool and formal and polite, or was it?
It was quite polite. The investigators at the time actually apologised to me and said they didn't like doing this. They didn't find it a problem themselves, but they had to do it. It was their job.
They told you that?
Yes. Well, welcome everyone.
Stonewall are fighting Terry Perkins' case through to the European Union's Court of Justice.
Thank you very much indeed for your efforts.
If Terry Perkins wins his case, it will mean that the government would be forced, I think, to lift the ban.
Being gay or lesbian in the forces is an offence against Queen's regulations. The military see it as an issue of discipline, and so have their political masters. The Defence Secretary, when Terry Perkins was dismissed, was Sir Malcolm RIFKInd.
The European Court of Human Rights.
I've always taken the view that when we send the Army or Navy or Air Force on our behalf as a country to a war zone or to a combat zone, then the morale of those who are perhaps risking their lives is of enormous importance. And when senior officers overwhelmingly advised ministers that there would, in their judgment, be serious damage to morale and to the discipline of the armed forces, that is not something which I would lightly overturn.
Terry Perkins now lives in Soho with his partner Mark, whom he met after being dismissed. The military believe that gays and lesbians in the armed forces might not behave professionally.
The armed forces, because of the intimacy which people inevitably experience if they are serving in the field or in the confined quarters on ships, that in the view of the armed forces and of the chiefs of staff, does create a very different situation. There is linked to this the problem of officers and other ranks, and the extent to which, for example, a person who was from the other ranks might be under pressure from an officer to pursue some form of relationship which they would not otherwise choose.
It's also been put to us by a former Defence Secretary, but he's quoting, he says, what the Armed Forces chiefs tell him, that under conditions of active service there might have been a problem between officers and other ranks.
It's pathetic. I'd become a leading medical assistant. I'd gone through, what, 5 promotions or whatever to get that. I wasn't going to say to anybody underneath me that, look, you're lower than me, you're going to come with me, little boy. It's not like that. I'm a normal person. I want to get on with people the same as anybody else in the street.
The Labour government inherited the Terry Perkins case and it's backing the ban in the European Court. If it loses the case, the new Defence Secretary will have to decide whether to defy the military and back a change in the law in a free vote in Parliament.
I think it would be highly inappropriate and probably improper for me to say at the moment what my view is. I have got a job of work to do, and that is to take account of a court judgment that will come later this year, and then to talk to the people in the armed forces about the consequences both of that and of the policy as a whole. And it will be for Parliament to make a decision.
On this issue, the public, according to our poll, strongly support Terry Perkins. When asked if it was acceptable for a gay man or a lesbian to serve in the armed forces, 64% agreed that it was. Only 28% didn't agree. On this issue, the campaigners seem to have won the battle for public opinion.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So the public thinks gays can safely serve their country and inhabit traditionally male worlds without frightening the horses.
Increasingly, homosexuality isn't admitted as if it were a problem, but openly declared. And it's accepted in some reaches of British society that you might have thought could be conservative with a small c or conventional. Take this Saturday afternoon game of rugby in Oxted, in deepest Surrey. How many of these men playing here, and which ones do you think might be openly gay? The answer: everyone in the green team is gay. Everyone.
It's Britain's only gay rugby club, the King's Cross Steelers. They've been admitted to Surrey Rugby Union. That afternoon they lost, 42-3.
They've got some front, you know, they're really brave to come out and openly say that they're a gay rugby side, and this is a dangerous sport. If people had prejudice, they could get hurt. We haven't got prejudice, you know, it doesn't worry us.
Oh, you mean you literally could have taken it out of them if you disapproved?
Oh, easily,
you could have
yeah.
gone for them.
Easily, yeah. If we wanted to hurt them, we could have hurt them, especially in a scrum.
Sport in general is has a very macho image, doesn't it? And
rugby more so.
Rugby especially. I mean, it tends to be, oh yeah, big macho, lots of testosterone flying around. You know, it's a man's game. But
big word.
It doesn't matter. You know, these guys turn up, they come to play rugby.
Robert Hayward, chairman of the Gay Rugby Club, used to be a Tory MP. Now he's a member of Stonewall's executive. He says gays and lesbians want far more now than tolerance. They want full legal recognition of their same-sex relationships, and getting that may be harder.
It's going to take a long time for people to adjust. It's taken decades for people to accept divorce, to accept breakup of marriage, to accept second marriages and all those sorts of things. And therefore, you have to say, why should it be any different for acceptance of gay relationships? It's going to take time.
Gays and lesbians want it all, a whole series of legal rights as same-sex couples, and some demand gay marriage too. In Durham, the question was put 10 days ago.
Proposing the motion is Reverend Richard Kirker, General Secretary.
Durham University Students' Union were debating gay partnerships and their ultimate expression, gay marriage.
And Mr. Alan Proctor,
I don't think it is a case that society accepts. And I don't think society is likely to accept it for a very long time, if ever it does. And you have to accept that. And the more that the homosexual community presses against society's instincts in this matter, then the more damage they do to their own cause. And I cannot understand why they can't see that.
I go out with a guy called Brookie. I've been going out with him for 4 years now, which is 28 in gay years. It works on something like that. It occurs to me that the fact that this option of marriage is not available to me and Brookie does have implications that are, seems to me, legal. If I had, you know, slipped into a coma during Harry's speech, not that that was...
Perish the thought.
Brookie would have no rights in law. If my parents were so inclined, and many people's parents are so inclined, he might not be able to come and visit me in the hospital. He would have no rights to have any say over what happened to me in that way. And it's things like that, that there are sort of legal issues from anything from taxation to pensions, where this, which are impacted by the fact that we're not allowed to get married. So
Gays and lesbians want first a series of changes in the law so that gay partnerships are recognised financially and contractually. That's strongly opposed by those who will tolerate homosexuality but would go no further.
Practical problems arise if you try to insist upon a legal equality rather than simply a toleration. But there are other major problems as well. For example, at the moment, a spouse shares the pension entitlements of the other spouse. Normally, the wife benefits from a married person's pension. Are we to suggest that in a homosexual relationship or a gay relationship that similar rights should apply?
One Labour minister replies yes. The minister who last month came out and declared that she was a lesbian living with a female partner.
Do you think this concept of same-sex partnership should be recognised in law?
Yes, and there should be equal access to the benefits that accrue with that.
Do you think this government should do that, should bring that change in?
I think that you should watch this space, and I think that by the end of the 5 years of this government we'll have made very considerable progress.
Our polls suggest the public would be very happy with this change. We asked, should same-sex couples have the same rights in areas such as pensions, inheritance and tenancy agreements as heterosexual couples? 71% agreed and thought they should. Only 23% disagreed. But going beyond partnership rights to a sacrament of marriage for same-sex couples is another matter. The Church of England joins together men and women in holy matrimony till death do them part. Not gays, not lesbians.
The Church does not approve of gay marriage. Marriage means the lifelong union of one man with one woman to the exclusion of all other, with the possibility of children and the bringing up of a family. That's what the Church means by marriage. And whatever relationships exist between gay people, and however permanent they might be, they don't constitute marriage.
But why may their union not be blessed?
Gay and lesbian Christians are blessed as part of the ordinary blessing of every service, but the Church has not made provision for the specific blessing of same-sex relationships.
A majority of the public don't approve of gay marriage either. We asked, should there be a change in the law to allow gay and lesbian couples to marry? 37% agreed, but more than half of the public, 53%, disagreed. Most controversially, besides having their relationships with each other endorsed, some gay and lesbian couples want the same legal rights as male and female couples to bring up children. That would mean changing the law on adoption. As things stand, the courts may allow individual gays or lesbians to adopt, but only married couples can.
Do you think your government will and should move to change the law on adoption in England and in Scotland?
Well, I know that the government is looking at a broad range of issues, and as a member of that government, I'll have my say in the usual way through the Whitehall machinery, and I know that as a party we are committed to equal rights and equal partnership rights, and I hope that we'll make good progress in the next 5 years on that whole agenda.
I do not believe that it is proper for adoption to be provided through our legal structures in a situation where you have a homosexual relationship. I do not see how the interests of the child can benefit from that, and I believe it creates an unnatural situation for that child. Remember, the child isn't being consulted. For the most part, the child is having imposed upon it a relationship which throughout the world as a whole, not just in this country, is still considered by the vast majority of the population to be unnatural and more likely to lead to instability.
But some children are brought up by two parents of the same sex. This peer of the realm was. Lord Ree, a 69-year-old hereditary peer who takes the Labour whip. Nick Ree's mother separated from his father when he was 6 years old, and he was brought up instead by his mother Betty and her lesbian lover Nan.
I enjoyed being with my mother and her partner. A same-sex couple can provide a much better background than many heterosexual families where the parents are at war.
Hey, careful.
After his exotic and bohemian childhood, Lord Ree became a GP, and he's now father and grandfather.
Did being brought up by these two women, these two lesbian women, did that turn you into a homosexual, Lord Ree?
Absolutely not. Although I get on very well with homosexual people because I hope, I'm fairly broad-minded, but I can understand how they feel, but I don't actually myself have any inclinations that way.
Well, these are some of the
numbers of same-sex couples wanting to adopt are growing, and science has now made it possible for them to have children of their own. Angela Mason of Stonewall lives with a partner and has a teenage child who was conceived by donor insemination.
Who are bringing up children.
Are these just a very, very few people, just a few exceptional cases?
No, I think it used to be the case that you probably get all the lesbian and gay parents in one room together, but I mean, nobody knows quite how many, but I think there are thousands and thousands of lesbian and gay families, and it's growing all the time. If lesbians and gay men are having children, then that's an issue that society slowly maybe is going to have to deal with.
You mean couple by couple, friends by friends?
Couple by couple, friends by friends.
Playground by playground?
Playground by playground. And it will be the experiences of those parents, the experiences of those children, which will, I think, sort of persuade people that we should have a change in the law and that to have a lesbian or gay family is, at the end of the day, as natural as to have a heterosexual family.
But the public, according to our poll, are more opposed to parenting and adoption rights for same-sex couples than to any other item on the gay rights agenda. Only 28% agreed to this, 64% disagreed. Our evidence suggests that much of what gays call equality alarms the straight majority. The campaigners think they'll win the legal battles eventually.
Of course, it will only be legal equality. Social equality will take a lot longer than that for people just to forget about sexuality and just treat people as indeed we are, just friends, neighbours, members of the family, as ordinary as everybody else.
Gays and lesbians have achieved tolerance, but that doesn't mean full acceptance of their agenda yet, even in these gay times.